Next question. Do you think entrepreneurship is something you were born with or develop as you grow?
I genuinely think it's 90% born with. And I'll tell you why. Because I have a twin brother and he is categorically not an entrepreneur. No matter if you put him in a room, give him 100 million quid, he would not build a business. Right, we're back with another Q&A episode, the second Q&A episode of the Midnight Pod, and probably the 37th-ish episode. I think this episode might be sponsored by potential sponsors that we've just signed up, which is good. We're taking the fucking pod more seriously, turning this thing into a business, monetizing everyone that's listening aggressively. And as usual, we're back with, well, as before, we're back with Jack Consalvi.
Version 2, doing the flat chores. Co-host,
the fucking Q&A co-host. We'll probably do one of these, like, I don't know, once every month. And I thought it was relevant to do the second Q&A because I'm like a month since launching Space Goods. There's a lot of people that follow this shit know some of those questions on there are about that and a bunch of other things. And yeah, Q&As are just easy album fillers because it's way easier to do ourselves than get another guest on, because we've officially reached the point where, I've officially reached the point where everyone I know has been rinsed and has been on the pod, so we need to start outreaching to people and shit, and it's becoming a bit more difficult and work. But yeah, these Q&As are interesting.
Yeah, I think last time
I'll probably ask you a few as well.
Yeah, last time we longed out a few questions, so we'll try and do some quick fire ones and then go deeper into the more lengthy ones.
Yeah, and some we didn't answer from last time, and then some are new ones.
Yeah, mix and match.
Try and make sure we don't do the same questions again.
Yeah. I can't remember. All right, well, we'll kick off then with this is an interesting one because we've talked about it a lot in terms of you launching Space Goods. I guess now everyone kind of wants to hear how it's going in the sense of like what you're comfortable with revenue wise and like how you're approaching it. And one of these questions is what your approach is to paid traffic and influencers, and are you comfortable losing money?
Yes, I think to touch on the first point, people saying how it's going, it genuinely has gone well. It's gone probably as I'd hoped. There was a good and like organic response, obviously, but like organic, I just kind of didn't really count anyway because it's not sustainable or scalable. But then in terms of like ad spend and shit, started aggressively testing, running on TikTok, Google and Facebook. So I just kept it pretty simple, working with a solid agency who I trust. And yeah, starting to scale up. We're spending like $1,000 a day. What was the question? We're spending like $1,000 a day on ads.
Well, yeah,
now.
I mean, it was just about,
the main issue is stock. Like only launched with 3,000 units, which is only 150 grand worth of revenue. So yeah, I'm intentionally holding back on spend right now. So like the numbers are looking good, given it's brand new. It's one product and it's like a new market. So what was it? Does that answer the question?
Now the second thing was basically about how you're. Well, it said, are you comfortable losing money essentially with this starting phase? And we have spoken about this, like the momentum first kind of approach.
Yeah, like I definitely am comfortable like 3 steps back, 5 steps forward, sort of in a way, because obviously I've already paid for the stock. So even if like my triple L numbers, first little plug there, even if my triple L dashboard is like a net profit loss on the day, I'm not like cash net loss. Because I've already bought stock and I've already bought 8,000 units, so I've got another 5k coming. So yeah, I suppose I'm happy to a level to be losing money. Like the CPA is looking good, and obviously considering a lot of people are subscribing or will subscribe because it's a consumable product. So bearing that in mind.
I think you're in a unique position where you've done this before multiple times, so it's very much a fail fast mentality, because there's no point, like when you first start out, obviously you want to kind of take it slow because you don't know what's going to happen and whatever. But you'd rather have data quick so you know what's working, what's not, and spend more, get momentum. And that's what I think, like being comfortable losing money, that question comes into it, because it's like you are for now. Yeah,
and also, it's a mix of experience, knowing like what I'm doing in terms of, it's not like it's my first store and I have to make money on the first day, because obviously I have money in the bank. I also have experience, but I also have a roadmap to, if I get to the point where it's technically losing money, but we can prove that we can grow the fuck out of it, then I'd probably just go and raise a load more money with investors, which I've already planted the seeds for. And that was always like in my head a potential roadmap if and when it starts scaling aggressively. But right now it's just putting the first card down the table, right? The first 3 weeks at this point there's clearly a market for it. The reviews have been genuinely good. We sold like what, I don't know, a decent chunk, like a quarter of the stock I had or more. I don't know what that is. And yeah, it's starting to ramp up. Like the numbers look decent, and I'm confident I can scale the fuck out of it. But the next step is do the first 3 months, because I think that's a solid period to have actual data from.
I think going on to you're saying raising money again in the future, which is like a key thing you want to kind of do moving forward. What are the metrics you're building now that investors are going to look at in the future and say, yeah, this is right, so we're going to put in a fuck ton of cash to take it to the next level?
Yeah, like the main thing, and I was very intentional with why I did one product and why it's a subscription product and why it's a early market. All these like tick the boxes in terms of like, potentially raising millions off investors and taking it like fucking Athletic Greens scale, which has always been the plan. So yeah, the main thing is like LTV to CAC, because like if I can prove that hypothetically my CPA is 30 quid at, we spent £1 million, we've got whatever that is, 33,000 customers at 30 quid, but it's not profitable technically because they're all paying for 1 month at 40 quid. But actually, if we know that people are likely to stay for 3 months, then we can spend more on ads up front. Then to plug that cash gap, you'd go and raise a bunch of money. I mean, and that would be the perfect scenario for an investor to say, I don't know, let's put 2 million quid into it and scale it to like 30 million run rate, hypothetically. Because if you can prove that the customers are there, you just need more cash in like the interim 3 to 6 months before they become profitable and they're subscribing, then it's like a SaaS company, basically.
Well, we were talking about, wasn't it? Like they have they're willing to spend like £800 on a customer because they know they're gonna make their money back, kind of thing. Well, that's quite a mad stat. It's like pretty high for SaaS companies. Yeah,
obviously right now it's a bit early to say how long dons are going to stay, like customers are going to stay. Because if a customer stays for a year, say average 40 quid, call it 400 quid a year, then you could spend 300 quid to acquire a customer. But obviously if they're only paying 40 quid in the first month, you'd have a big gap between those two things. And that's where raising money would be very sensible and make sense. So yeah, that's kind of the main thing, like the LTV to CAC really. LTV to CPA, whatever you want to call it.
All right, next question. So being in business with close mates / brother, what's your take on it?
Well, I've always been like a solo founder, but I did have a business with Ollie from Saw With Us, and it didn't go very well because, I mean, it was complicated because we're at different stages in life and shit, and he was a good mate, which I don't think helped. I think it can definitely work. I think it comes down to just being self-aware. Like, I think you had the gym thing.
Yeah. So I mean, for context, my previous venture before this, I had a gym account that I co-founded with one of my best mates. Grew it to like 125k on Insta, and then I built a new brand since then. But I think one of the key things I learned from that is it's very hard to, we were at uni at the time, like it's pretty hard to stay together at all times. Like you need to be almost in the same room to like get shit literally going quick. And I mean, besides that, just in general, I think you definitely need complementary skills. So like in a business, for example, one person charges the finance side, one person charges the creative side, because they're two completely different but complementary skills, because that's what's needed in a business, kind of thing.
Yeah, I just never met anyone where I thought I needed them, to be honest. And yeah,
like jack of all trades kind of thing.
Yeah, and probably as well, like maybe I'm just my character. I'd rather just be in charge of everything.
I'm kind of the same. It's like there's a stubbornness.
I just wouldn't work with a co-founder. Maybe when I'm older, and it's like, I don't know.
I think that there's element. It's like perfectionism, because you always think you can do it better, and it's like it's a blessing and a curse, because obviously, ultimately, your vision is what pushes the business forward at the start. But that perfectionism aspect is, it's a curse, because you find it difficult to release control, and releasing control is freedom, and that's what everyone wants. So
yeah, I feel like now, to be fair, it's kind of the perfect scenario for me. Like I'm still in charge, I'm still the founder, which is maybe an ego thing, but now I have other shareholders and wise people that have given me money and elements of their brain power to help me scale this thing. So for me, that's like the perfect balance between, they're obviously not co-founders, but they also have a vested interest financially and emotionally in the business, and and I didn't have that before, but now I have that. Granted, it means I own not 100% of the business, but I still own the vast majority, and I'm still the only one making the decisions at this point.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about smaller slice of bigger pie? That approach to what you're doing now, because it's very different to what you've done previously. I think it's interesting because.
Yeah, I mean, basically, and again, it just comes from experience and meeting people that have like actually made like massive money, and like a few of which have been on the pod, and they did not own 100% of their business, and you know, one of them owned not even 50% of the business. And yeah, like I would rather, you know, hypothetically in 5 years have even like 30% of $1 billion, or even 300 million, or even 100 million, than 100% of what I nearly had 2 years ago of like, I don't know, 5-10 million, or nothing, worst case, when it goes wrong, because you haven't got the right backing and people helping you make decisions and shit. So I think that's just a bit like a maturity thing, like realising I don't need to have 100% of something, because if you just look at all the biggest examples of like successful startups, broadly speaking, but then specifically like e-com brands, probably very rarely does the founder own 100%. And like, why do I need to own 100%? Like, as long, like, I'd like to be like recognised as the founder and the guy that made the thing, and you can still be that even if you end up owning 10%.
Yeah,
but
I reckon like when it's like 8-figure level, it then becomes a game of people, like what people are going to drive the business forward, and what flaws in the business are, like what flaws do you have in the business that you can fill with, you know, someone else who's an expert in that field and you're not, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's hard to have that mindset when you're like 18 or even 20 or whatever. But I think when you've done some shit for a while and worked out what you're good at and not good at, then yeah, you just recognise that you probably have a much better chance of being successful and being very successful at a large scale by having a slice of a bigger thing rather than all of a smaller thing.
Yeah, I do think this a bit of a tangent. I was thinking at the start you do kind of need to be good, not great at everything to get started. Like there's a big difference between good and great, but you know, when you're first starting out, no budget, and there's a lot of questions about how much budget do you need. Yeah. Realistically, you're not going to have thousands to put in. Maybe you do, but like most people don't if you're interested in getting in the space. And yeah, you know, there's so many components. Then you need to have a good kind of creative eye for what converts on paid channels. You know, does the website look aesthetic? Is that going to convert? Like finances, are you tracking everything on a granular level? Because there's so many fees and shit you just don't account for. There's so much shit, and yeah, at the start it's good because you are a one-man band, but you learn the trades of everything that make a business work. And then as you grow and you get more money and you start to have more cash to put into other things, that's when you can offset it to people who are better than you in those fields.
Yeah, I honestly reckon any Don that's been in the trenches for like 2 or 3 years minimum is like way more equipped for the world broadly of just business than probably anyone that's gone to uni and got a business degree. Yeah. Or even like potentially even a fucking MBA. Depends what scale you've got to. Yeah. Because you just see so much shit and have to get equipped in so many areas. Like even just basic shit that's really boring. Even like people don't realise how many skills are actually required just to even be relatively competent at building something online. Yeah. So there's a mental toughness to it as well, because it's like a game of who gives up last. Realistically, it's like it takes a lot of willpower to stay doing one thing for a year plus, like let alone 3 years, let alone people like Jimmy who had his brand for 9-10 years or whatever it was. And then it compounds though, because obviously confidence comes from it. What's the term? Confidence comes from experience. Yeah, like it's fact. If you see that it can work to a level, and then another level, and then people around you do it to another level, then it's like, well, obviously it's going to work. It's just a matter of time. Agree with that. I always had the analogy when I was kind of at the start. It's like once you see the light at the end of the tunnel, that's what gives you the kind of it basically just shows you that it's possible, and you can sometimes take other people's light at the end of the tunnel. So like if you see your best mate or something do well, or people in a close circle, like someone does well, they act as some level of inspiration that it is possible, whatever, and you can take that and then
Yeah, but there's definitely levels to that shit. Like now that we've grown our businesses, like we see people who are on an even bigger scale.
Yeah, you get access to the next level.
Yeah, and that never stops as well. Like I realise that, and you listen to these billionaire podcasters or whatever, and it never changes. So like I recognise that now, and I accept that. But yeah, it's just a constant game.
Yeah, it's like certain guests we've had on telling us about the hanging out in Dubai with billionaires. Yeah. Who to them are the equivalent of them to us.
Yeah.
And then there's probably some fucking, that billionaire is probably hanging around with Jeff Bezos, who's the multi-billionaire.
Yeah, legit.
Not that it's all about money, but like the levels to the game.
The video is like that, the guy in the car looks up at the fucking helicopter or some shit. Yeah,
there's always the next thing.
Yeah.
Yo fellas, quick one. First bit of promo for the pod. You may or may not have heard, I released a fucking ecom course a few months ago. Basically spent like 6 months making it because I was in between businesses, as you probably know if you follow my shit. I must say, 12 hours long, it's fucking quality content. I was gonna drop it at like 1,500 quid with some bullshit guru-y webinar and all that rubbish, but as you know, it's not my main thing. I'm working on a new brand right now, very, very fucking much in the trenches, which is why I think it's actually a better course than everything else out there, because it's built on real experience of my brands in the past and my current one. I think it's super, super valuable. If you're interested in ecom, you're already in ecom and you wanted to get into ecom, 0 to 1, starting a brand from scratch, then definitely worth investing in. Link is in the bio of this video or podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever the fuck you're listening or watching, and enjoy the rest of the pod.
What's your must-haves in a product when you're looking to build a solid brand around it? Repeat purchase potential, how much competition is too much, differentiation potential, etc.
I mean, I literally never even thought about any of this until I started working on the most recent brand, which is Space Goods, and that's after like fucking 6 years of doing shit. So like previously, and I've said this before on another podcast, when I started Midnight and previous shit, I just don't even know. There wasn't much logic to it. It was just like, maybe it was instinctual and I didn't think there was logic, but actually it was like initiative or whatever, but I didn't really think about it. But yeah, I guess for Space Goods, I mean, I literally sat down 6 months ago, whatever it was, with a completely blank slate and said, what boxes do I want to tick, knowing what I know now? One of them was massive gross margin, so like 80% plus. One of them was subscription potential, so i.e. consumable. The other one was I want it to be fucking small and light so it can ship easily and not give me the headache like neon signs did. The other one was I want it to be a market where it actually feels early and it's not massively saturated yet, even though I don't think saturation is really a problem. But something about mushrooms. I looked around, there's literally no brands in the UK doing it, at least not the way I want to do it. So some in America. So it ticked all those boxes, and then like the psychedelic element was like controversial and part of the strategic narrative, I guess. Like, you know, this could be this if this happens, so therefore the business could, like, even if it becomes massive as a supplement brand, which it will, then we're not even tapped into the next level of what it could be. So like, I probably even more now since I've launched it, I think, I guess for me at least, it's definitely like the perfect product and market.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon are the most challenging aspects of? Because you've obviously reverse engineered everything. I think you're in a good spot because you have the hindsight of knowing how your other brands operated and what the metrics were margin wise, and what the fact that Neon was shit to ship because it was so heavy. Like, you've got on paper the perfect brand, but like what would you say the challenges are, if there are any? Like, there might not be.
Well, the first challenge was I've spent 6 months working on one product. If this product doesn't have appeal, it's not like you can fucking release another colour tomorrow. I mean, do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like we've got 200 SKUs and one of them's a flop. It's one SKU, so it either works or it doesn't. So that's the first thing, but that was calculated anyway.
That was more like calculated risk, I'd say. But
yeah,
it was, your intuition's way better now, just because you know the market.
Yeah, I suppose like the other risks are maybe it's easier for a competitor to copy it, but then at the same time, I think it's actually way harder in many ways because it takes months to develop a product like that. Yeah. Whereas a neon sign brand can rip off a website overnight, which happened many times. Same with like jewelry, to be honest. Like, so fucking competitive, so replicatable. Every product looks almost the same with every brand, regardless of what any of them say.
I think so. High barriers to entry becomes a big perk when you've been running something for a while, let's say, or you have access to capital to invest in a product that's not already made, because then you're taking yourself off the whole Alibaba, AliExpress scene, and it's not something that someone can just drop ship. It's something that's been made,
Yeah.
takes 8+ weeks to build, and there's a high MOQ that most
Yeah.
newbies can't afford to.
All these like TikTok and
Yeah.
Twitter fucking
I see the same shit. I saw
drop
some
shippers do not have the patience to develop a product for 6
Yeah.
months
Seen,
and
like,
not make money on it.
5 ads today of some shark slippers or some shit.
Yeah.
There's a winning product for you.
There's all these all these
fucking
fucking shiny object syndrome
yeah,
dons from like so many of them.
yeah.
Like,
think-
they all think they're ballers, but the second their product dies, they don't. Not everyone, but yeah, I'm just throwing shade on certain people in my brain right now.
I think in my experience from my brand, which I won't reveal today, but
Get onto that.
yeah, well, I think you get at the start, you're just grateful for what you have. Something's working. It might not necessarily have all the metrics that make the perfect business on paper, but you just make it work. Like, you do everything in your power to keep the momentum going. And then I think the next stage is getting a better product that has close affinity with better metrics. So you kind of use that starting product as a proof of concept in a niche. And then once you built that up, you built up a customer base, you get this compound effect of having a customer base you can sell to again with this new product that you make in the future, which has basically everything that you said, like with the higher barriers to entry. You have more capital to invest in a bespoke product. Like that's I think the most realistic route for a lot of people. But like now, because you're in a spot where you've done a lot of shit, you have capital, you can make the perfect business from the get go because you had the capital to do it and the knowledge to make it happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's look at some other questions then. Advice to a 17-year-old starting ecom, pretty broad one. I'll let you lead.
I feel like these questions are really fucking hard to answer because I'm not 17 in this current ecom climate. But I think the first thing, 17, you're probably in school, just fucking start something. Like, even if and it will be the shittest website in the world, start something and know that it'll be shit. That's honestly like the first thing. I think the second thing would be like just join as many like free online communities as you can. That's probably Discord more than Facebook groups these days.
Yeah, facts. It's moving
just
on.
like, because that's what I did. I wasn't 17, but like at like 20 or whatever. Just start speaking to like-minded people, because one of the biggest challenges you'll have is no one around you probably gives a fuck about ecom, and then you might think that you're doing the wrong thing or whatever. But yeah, just join loads of free groups, and I'd probably say watch YouTube for like 3 hours a day, and then get on Twitter. Just read shit.
I just had a thought, like the whole thing of if you don't have mates who are in the ecom scene, like back in the day, with you for example, you don't have a lot of people doing the same thing as you because it's quite unique.
Yeah,
not everyone goes down the business route, but the fact you're indulging in so much ecom content, they become your close 5 people who make you. Do you know what I mean? So it's like at the start,
like online mates.
Yeah, like you literally have to go all in on just understanding the game, and you can get that through fucking pods like this. Like the fact you're 17 and asking questions because you're already in this sphere of ecom, like you're in the right place, and it's just a case of getting started. And like 5 years
doing God's work on this fucking pod.
Yeah,
all for free as well. That's why we got sponsors. Someone's got to pay the bills. Yeah, that's definitely the advice. It's too, you can't really give more specific on that because it's too broad.
Yeah.
But I think that's just solid. It sounds obvious, but it actually is the case. And yeah, like, just another thing, like ignore anyone that fucking says you can't do it, which is like the other side of join all the positive shit, but also block out all the bullshit, which there'll be a lot of more around you physically, like Don's laughing at you, fucking school bullies that are yet to get a full-time job at KFC after school, all that sort of stuff, because that does happen.
In very blunt terms, is don't take advice from anyone who's not in a position that you want to be in. It's like financially and
exactly. Exactly.
Which is sometimes like, when parents aren't as supportive, mine were, like, I'm not hating on my parents, but if they say you can't do it, and they're not in a position you want to be in, it's like, why would you listen?
This dog is a disgrace.
Okay, so
podcast puppy.
What gives you the drive, inspiration to do what you do, and where do you create ideas? I think we touched on this, but
That's kind of two questions. I don't know. I think the first thing, what gives you drive, I honestly think that's like you either have it or you don't. Like to an extent. I suppose that initially, I just always knew I wanted to, when I was like 12 years old, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like maybe I didn't even know what entrepreneur meant back then, but I knew I wanted to do something. I always felt like the odd one out, which probably everyone does, that actually does cool shit in the end to an extent. And then, I guess like drive recently is because I fucked up the last business and it really pissed me off and I felt like I had a lot to prove. But that's more circumstantial. But like the baseline is just knowing that I want to do something different, knowing that what I'm working on is what I'm good at, and then I guess ultimately wanted to build something massive and have a legacy, because it's not just about fucking making money online. I think it probably starts with that. But I'm not that guy that wants to make a bit of money online and disappear to Bali, because I know a lot of people are and they pretend they're not, but they truly are. So how about you?
I forgot the question, to be honest. What was it? Oh,
what drives you? Well, that's the first part. So answer that first.
Well, in the previous pod, I mean, I've always been like a creative, I'd say, like at heart. I've used to make, similar to you, used to make home movies, be all into that. Mainly because my dad was so into films. We used to watch films together, basically. And
same.
And it's just like those little things that happen in your childhood that create this butterfly effect of me doing that made me want to make movies, and as a result of that, make better movies, do photography and fucking anything related to creative shit, really, like in that field. Learning Photoshop and Adobe Premiere literally when I was like 16, 17, and then taking that into the gym thing that I did. And editing is ultimately what got us to like an alright following. But I used to do like these muscle anatomy things that were like kind of no one was doing at the time. That's what made us viral and basically just grow fucking 100k in like a year. Those traits compound, and then now it's like I'm directing a movie to the world, and we've discussed this. We have the same thing. I literally feel like my brand is like my live movie that everyone's watching. It's fucking sick. I love it.
Yeah, it is. That's the cool thing about building a brand. Like I've watched back that 80s fucking film we did for Space Goods like 15 times. Yeah. Because I'm actually just fucking amazed how sick it is.
Yeah.
What was the second part of the question? Two questions.
Where do you create ideas? I don't know.
I honestly always have a ridiculous amount of ideas. And then I guess over time you get better at curating those ideas and choosing which ones to actually fucking work on. Because I was not the here's what I'm going to do at 18 and work on it guy, and I know a few people that are, and I'm very jealous. I've had like 7 econ brands, like a few.
That's a lot.
Like one that did 6 figures, one that did 7 figures, one that did 8 figures and burned, and now the one's going to do 9 figures. But that's a lot of different brands in different spaces. So I just have a lot of ideas. But again, like, is that genetic? Is that? I think an element of it is genetic and like baseline creativity or whatever. Because I've always just been a fucking weirdo. I have just a lot of ideas and shit. Yeah. But then it's also the confidence to act on those ideas. Yeah. Because everyone's got ideas and they're actually very worthless.
Yeah. It's like, it's weird. It's like a case, it's this nature nurture debate. It's like you must have consumed something different to other people to have better ideas than them. It's like, why
consumed rainbow dust.
Yeah.
I should have put product placement. I forgot to put it in.
We'll do it in a break. Yeah. But I think it also depends on the brand you're running as well. Because like if it's if fucking consumable for mums, like you're not gonna do a rap video for content. Like you're gonna curate it to be tailored for that demo. So I mean, it's everyone's dream to create a cooler brand, because then you're actually doing cool shit that you like. But ultimately, like, you know, if you have a brand that's not cool but it's making money, you're still gonna make it work. Like it's just that. Yeah, you know. Yeah. Me personally, I get a lot of inspo just from, I suppose, music videos and shit from an editing point of view. Like there's a lot of those modern edits like in all the rap videos and shit like that. Following the right people on Insta. I'm a bit weird. I follow like these Photoshop accounts because I'm always amazed like how much shit I don't know from these things that I used to do that took way longer than it should have, and it just watching those guys do shit gives you ideas because it's like a lot of graphics, and even with you and like the whole space aspect, like you might follow, it might be an account with space related animations.
I don't really know, to be fair.
And yeah, I don't know.
Probably comes from a million different sources, doesn't it? And like,
I follow a lot of graphics accounts.
Yeah. Because I mean, you probably get influenced by like shit you've seen and people you've met. And you don't even realize it necessarily. Because I've traveled a lot, met a lot of different people from different places, seen a lot of different businesses and shit.
We're counting down the days till we see a gradient packaging, aren't we? For someone ripping your space good shit.
Oh right, yeah, fucking hell. I don't know where the obsession with pink comes from, but I've just always been naturally drawn to that. Maybe there's like some scientific reason. There's maybe some shit I saw.
Hong Kong, like, or Tokyo.
Yeah, but I was into it before. I mean, maybe proper obsession started then. Maybe yeah. I don't know. Like when you just click with something, like aesthetically. Yeah. And yeah, that's always been a constant. Like the whole pink nighttime vibes for me. Yeah. But it's definitely become more intense recently. Like I was in a shop today, sorting out a certain pink dial watch, which might be on the next episode, because no one's wearing a fucking pink dial. Yeah. Especially not one from retail.
That's a fucking MK watch. I've seen one.
Right, go on.
Yeah, next question. Who are your mentors or people you follow? I think you go. I've got a take on this, but yeah, you go.
Honestly, I would never say I've had a mentor. But I definitely followed a lot of people. Like back in the day, I literally used to follow like Ben and Lewis from Gymshark back when like that was like super young, just because I had an interest in, and followed like other brand founders. Probably like just following brand founders, people like Gary Vee, fucking
Guzman. Remember
Christian Guzman? Yeah, dons like that. Just like people doing cool shit online. I probably followed.
Yeah, Guzman was an OG.
Yeah, Matt Ogus. Yeah, that's old school shit. Yeah, I used to follow those guys a lot. I guess mentors. Maybe in like recent months, I've kind of got people in my life that I would consider a mentor to an extent because they've like invested in the business and shit. But that's only now when I'm like 26. So I don't know. Like I guess other people. I would guess even just mates and people I've met along the way have been like you could say were mentors in a way because you share ideas and shit. But never had like a formal one or anything. Like, I don't really get where this like glamorous idea of a mentor comes from. It's very like Americanized.
It's literally what I was about to say. It's the same. I feel like it's on the same level as entrepreneur. I hate saying entrepreneur because everyone says it. It's like everyone says, "Oh, I've got a mentor." I got
laughed at in Soho House the other night, which is very meme. Finally got a fucking membership because I said to that girl, "Oh, you weren't there. It was with Tyler." She was some drunk girl said, and I knew before I answered. I literally said, "You're going to laugh at this because we're in Soho House where." Everyone that isn't an entrepreneur says they're an entrepreneur, but don't even get me started on that. And she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I build e-commerce businesses." She was like, "Haha, of course you do." Like thinking I was lying, but whatever. I didn't really care. But yeah, it's just funny. Yeah, it's become a meme.
Yeah, it literally has. I think the reason I don't like the word mentor is because ultimately, like, you want to build relationships rather than. Like, because the people that I consider mentors, or like that other people would consider mentors based on the context of scheduling in an hour and just catching up on the business, like they become mates. Like you want to be mates, not fucking mentors. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, you definitely earn your stripes when you have some history to what you do, because then you become like a lot more interesting to other people, and that's just something that you build over time. Like you can't shortcut that. Like experience breeds connections, really.
Yeah, credibility.
Yeah, and I think paying for mentors is like it is definitely a good thing, but you want to be really specific with what you want to know, because it's like I think I heard an example. It's like you're not going to go to the Tim Cook or something and just ask him something because he's operating a £1 trillion brand or $1 trillion brand, whatever. It's like he's way above what level we're at now. So you want to find someone who can answer the questions that you have and just be realistic with yourself about what you want to know and who's going to solve that.
Yeah, I think in summary, the way to get mentors, if that's what we're calling it, is fucking just, build an element of credibility and just fucking meet dons and have strategic sends with them. That's what we're going to call it. And a strategic send, by the way.
That shit.
Yeah, is a term that I coined and put on Twitter the other day. I don't know what the exact definition was, but it's the act of getting very drunk with people of high power, influence or intelligence to strengthen relationships and break down socio-economic work-related barriers.
It's actually facts though.
I've just made that up on the spot.
Yeah, that's good. That's
what it is.
Someone's got Urban Dictionary that and then send it to you.
And basically, meeting cool people in like borderline work session scenarios and getting to know them, because no one wants to fucking mentor you if you're a virgin and you can't speak. Because there's so many, honestly, there's a few I'm thinking of, I won't name them, that watch this podcast and stuff and message me, and they're just, it comes across so like forced and fake. And just be yourself and fucking share your vision, and ideally something you've actually done. And that's probably the main thing. Mm-hmm. And then you attract people that, because people that have made money and like are older or whatever, usually like, there's only so much pleasure and like fulfillment they can get from fucking buying houses. Like they want to help the next generation of like legitimately high potential entrepreneurs and shit. And that's where they get a lot of fulfillment from that. So put yourself in those positions. I
think realistically, if you founders or the positions that we're in, you drop the corporate facade because you've got no one to please. So it's like if someone else, if someone's acting too professional to you, it becomes unauthentic because you know that's not reality.
I literally swear on every single call I ever have with like people I've never met.
It's like an icebreaker. It's like, look, chill. Like
I literally say like I don't give like something what the context is, and some of them will be like, oh, because like they're, I don't know, some sales exec for a 3PL, for example.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar.
So when you've never been in the corporate scenario, the corporate world, like you tend to be more who you are. I think. Because you're not used to any politics or whatever, or rules.
Yeah. Next question.
Come here.
It's from the same guy actually. We've got quite a few entries from him. Top 3 important thoughts you took from all of your podcasts.
Important thoughts? What, like top 3 tips from the podcasts?
I guess so.
Christ, I'll try and freestyle that. What, from my guests, I assume? Yeah,
I guess so, yeah. A compound.
Yeah. I'm assuming that means like what have I learned most from guests? So I'll try and choose 3.
Yeah, maybe like your top 3 favourites. I know one of them because we fucking talk about it all the time.
Number 1 is probably building the strategic narrative of your business or brand. And again, I don't think that's applicable to like dropshipping. Well, it's not applicable to like early stage dropshippers or whatever. But like if you're trying to build a business to get like filthy rich from a big exit, the strategic narrative, I think go watch Alex Packham's episode, I think episode 22 or 23, sold his business Content Cow. I speak about that a lot in that. And I think that's the first time I heard that concept, and I've not shut up speaking or thinking about it since. So that's the first one. Number 2 is probably just massive success actually takes a lot of time. So even if you worked on something for like 2 years, which is ironically the longest I'd ever worked on one brand, like how the fuck are you expecting to get a £100 million exit in 2 years? It doesn't happen, like ever. I mean, there's probably freak cases it does. Go watch the Hairburst episode to reference that with Jimmy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just picking out probably like the highest tier episodes in my mind at least. And then third, probably general theme that has maybe come from everyone, I reckon, is ultimately don't even start working on something unless you're genuinely passionate about it and would probably do it for free regardless of the financial outcome. I think that's the third thing, because it would, if you don't actually care about it, you fucking will give up.
That's what it comes down to.
When you reach your first hurdle, basically.
That's what it always comes down to. That, like I said earlier, it's like it's a game of who gives up last. And if you literally, like, if you think about that, it's just true. Because if you give up at the start, you're never gonna get the end goal that you've been looking for. And then ultimately, the longer you play the game, like the more you get out of it.
Yeah, the better you get.
Yeah.
I think probably those 3. But go and watch the whole of every episode and you'll probably learn something, and you'll get my watch time and engagement up as well. So That'd be good.
Okay, next question. What are your thoughts on building a brand in a market you don't care about / don't align with, but has a lot of opportunity for a new player?
I personally couldn't do it, and I said this a billion times, but I know people that have done it, and it probably comes down to you. Like, if you're not going to get bored because you don't care about it when shit gets hard, then fine. But I think statistically, you probably are more likely to give up or not succeed if you don't care about yourself. I just can't see how that's not the case.
I think another thing that doesn't make it boring is if you're in love with the process rather than the actual kind of brand itself. Like, you know, I know people who are in niches that they don't necessarily like, but the process of making it the best brand possible with the resources they have and their just creativeness to bring ideas to reality. It's the bringing ideas to reality that creates the most fulfillment.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of that as well. So it's like a mixture of cool brands / fulfilling your creative needs.
Yeah. I think just fucking being self-aware, because it's different for everyone, but just don't lie to yourself. Like, I could not run, for example, a women's skincare brand even if you guaranteed me that it was going to make me like a billionaire. I mean, maybe I could.
Yeah.
But
a subtweet on that is actually referencing Ezra Firestone, which is a perfect example because he has Boom, which is 40-year-old women. Boom, which has fucking smashed it, to be fair. I think it's 100 mil plus, right?
Maybe, yeah, probably.
I think it is.
Yeah. So for him, he obviously just likes the process more, maybe, but I've always just built shit that was actually for me and I liked. But yeah, there's no right answer on that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I know when I first started out, I wanted to hear kind of what the metrics were behind ad spend and shit. I think it is quite useful. So when you're first starting a brand, what is the ad spend on your... I suppose nowadays every structure is different, but yeah, in general, what's the spend first week? Let's say it may be different now. We don't have to get into the.
Was he asking me?
Well, yeah, in general, and I think you're a good example because it's a modern day version of like what needs to be done on Facebook to get it to the next level, kind of thing.
So what's the question?
So like your spend on Facebook, like what is the spend in your first 7 days? We don't have to go past that, but like for the first 7 days.
Well, the first 7 days, I had an ad spend limit of £192 per day because it was a new account.
Which is a realistic.
Which is fucking bollock. Yeah. So the ad spend was whatever, £192 a day for 7 days, which was like enough to get going, but obviously not enough to like test and scale. And now that ad spend limit is off, so it's a lot harder than that. But yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
I think. It's actually very, well, I say it's very easy to scale. I'm at a different position, but it's like once you have it's proving creatives first, and then from there it's just pretty much CBOs and cost caps and shit, and that's just the easiest way to scale.
Yeah, I don't even know what that shit means anymore. I'm not in the ad account, luckily, but obviously I have enough understanding. I'm the conductor these days rather than the musician. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to be.
That one as well.
But I'm a conductor that had a past life as a violinist, so I have context.
Yeah, I do think it's important because you're in a different stage where you obviously have the capital to offset your media buying to an agency, but like probably, I don't know, 80-90% of people who are watching do all this shit themselves.
Yeah, that's an interesting debate in itself though, because I still think even if you borderline can't afford it, you have a better chance of success giving it to an expert than trying to do it yourself, unless you literally know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
There's a deal to be done with any agency or freelance or whatever. Just fucking pay them on performance and just, I don't know, tell them that you can't afford to pay them, but you can't run the ads yourself, and there's a win-win situation potentially.
That is an interesting point. I always outsourced Google from the get-go. I think that's the easiest thing.
I never ran Google Ads.
It's always the easiest to outsource because I think the actual cost is cheapest versus like Facebook and everything else, or just Facebook, which is obviously the main engine.
It's more reliable typically.
Yeah, but like I'd always get charged like at the very start it would be like $1,000, and like that's Facebook is normally like $2 or I don't know. So yeah, at the start, I'd definitely say Google. Yeah, it's so subjective. Me personally, I outsourced Google from the start. Did Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat for 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, and then like now I'm offsetting it, and it's actually so blissful it taught me a lot, and it even, you know, I'm glad I was in the trenches in the account, because it just teaches you the process of marketing, like CTRs and fucking cost per click, all those terms that very new starters won't know about.
Yeah,
it comes back to the jack of all trades things, where you need like a bit of understanding on every component of a business that makes it shit work. But then ideally you offset it to a media buyer, and that's like the position you're in, where you have the capital to do so.
Yeah, and also have the context, having spent millions on ads myself and multiple agencies. So like, I'm a weathered sailor in that respect. Yeah. So I know what I'm looking for, and I understand what they're talking about, even if I might not understand exactly how to execute it in 2022. Yeah. If I was doing it myself.
For sure. Hard things finding a good agency.
Very hard. Click the link in my bio. To a potentially good agency.
Yeah, all right. I'll find the next question. I guess just off the top of my head while I'm looking, difference between brands and drop shipping.
I've definitely seen quite a few good ones in there, by the way. But
I'll have a look. Branded, like a brand versus a drop shipping store. You're taking it, like if someone's doing drop shipping now, how do you recommend they go to the next level and make it a brand?
Well, fundamentally, the difference in that conversation is, to clarify, in my mind at least, drop shipping is all about, and I spoke to Greta Van Riel, right? You know, she's like famous in this space, like 4 years ago.
Is that the one with the
Strategic Send?
Yeah.
Her and Nathan Chan from Founder Magazine. I distinctly remember this conversation because I was drop shipping back then, and I asked her when I should move to branding. And she said, it's like 4 years ago in Barcelona. And she said, drop shipping is stacking, branding is compounding. I was like, all right, cool, yeah, I get that. And basically what she's saying, like drop shipping is all about how much money can I make now, you know, until it stops working or the product dies. Branding, I guess, is what I'm doing, you know, putting a shitload of money into something that's probably not going to be profitable that soon, but you're building an actual unique proposition in a market, and you're creating something from scratch, which is way harder to do, but way more valuable to a potential buyer. And that's how, you know, you're not going to sell a dropshipping store for 100 million quid. It is not going to happen. You're probably not going to sell a dropshipping store for 100 grand either. Very, very rare. Even if you hear these stories, most of them are bullshit. But yeah, everyone should get started with dropshipping. That is category, unless you got loads of experience and loads of money.
It resets the clock on
But I think a good way to do it is start a store and then see how you can pivot that to a brand over time.
100%.
Which is what plenty of people we know have done.
Yeah. Including me. Like.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Like, I think
that's the ultimate solution.
Yeah, it actually is.
In terms of roadmap from nothing to something.
Me personally, like you learn the ropes from drop shipping, spend however long doing that. For me, it was like a year. And then once you get a very good understanding on all the components that make it your store, if we're talking about stores, work, then it's about what products can I add that make the brand more valuable, and how do I make these customers loyal to the brand. And then you start looking at return customer rates and customer experience, because that influences return customer rate, and like everything is about product quality, customer experience, just having a operationally sound business that can grow and is attractive to investors. And then, you know, you might get investors to put money into the business, and then all of a sudden you're running a fucking 8-9 figure brand. So like that's ultimately the journey for a lot of us boys in the space right now, I guess. Okay.
Stop chewing this.
It's quite funny. It's just an easy one. Have you ever had an ego death? 5 grams of shrooms alone in a dark room will change your life, for real.
Nah, I've never had an ego death, and yeah, I also
how
that's a crooked question, given it's a public podcast.
It's quite. I mean, it's quite funny seeing. Well, not funny, but it's just interesting seeing Mike Tyson's take on it all. And I personally don't.
Yeah, an ego death for context, is something that's commonly referred to as when you take a very large amount of psychedelic substance and you basically, well, as he says, lose all sense of self and ego, and you become almost like at one with nature. That's the general gist. I haven't gone that far, to be fair, myself. So no, not yet. I would definitely love to explore that level a bit more, maybe.
Next question, do you think entrepreneurship is something you were born with or develop as you grow?
I genuinely think it's 90% born with, and I'll tell you why. Because I have a twin brother, and he is categorically not an entrepreneur. No matter if you put him in a room, gave him 100 million quid, he would not build a business.
How similar was your upbringing? Exactly
the same.
Really?
Went to the same school, borderline went to the same uni before I dropped out. Same city, different unis.
Do you have the same friend group or no?
Yeah.
Oh really? Fucking hell. Yeah.
So I genuinely believe it's largely genetic. I just can't see how it's not, because I don't know, I've just seen so many examples that illustrate that, i.e. my brother is the most obvious one. But then like friends, and I guess there's an element of maybe when you get a taste of something working and you get around the right people, then you can kind of train yourself to have that mindset and view things the way an entrepreneur would.
Did your brother row?
Yeah, but he wasn't as good as me. We did all the same shit. He copied me.
Yeah.
But I'm convinced it's largely genetic.
Yeah,
I really am.
I think at the same time it comes down to like fundamental traits, because going back to the not giving up thing, that's discipline. And so like if you're not engaged in a sport or something at an early age, and you get these discipline traits that you carry over into business, which is fucking a big part of business, to be honest. Like taking your previously, okay, I've lost my train of thought. Like the shit you used to, like, you know, at the gym, for example, like that was, for me, that's where I got my discipline from. But for you, it was rowing, and it's different.
Yeah, but then I also know people that were elite level junior athletes, student athletes, current athletes, do not have an entrepreneurial bone in their body, because they're incredibly disciplined, but they could not ultimately create something for themselves from scratch. They just couldn't. So that's where I think it's interesting. I mean, I think maybe the best entrepreneurs have both. They're like genetically an entrepreneur, or have the traits that become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I guess.
And have like the experience in life, maybe sport, being brought up a certain way, hang around the right people eventually, that makes them like ultimately the top level killers.
Yeah, it's nature nurture. I think it's an unanswered debate. It's very subjective. Like in your case, it's from your perspective, it's genetic because your brother's not the same as you.
I think it's largely genetic. Yeah. That's definitely the starting point.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting one.
You're gonna like this one because you can talk about your fucking 5k PBs and shit. Current daily routine, including building the brand plus current running and training.
Yeah, to be fair,
this guy's been fucking.
I've got ridiculously shredded recently. I don't even know where it's come. It's happened in like the past month.
But he's seeing veins for the first time.
Yeah, looking back to like the Iman episode, for example, I was a fat fuck. Well, I actually wasn't a fat fuck, but like I was 2 stone heavier, and relative to what I look like now, I look like a piece of shit.
What's that in kegs?
I was like 93 kilo then. No, sorry, more. No, way more. Like 99 kilo then. Now I'm like 87. So 12 kilo. That's like bang on 2 stone.
Yeah, I mean 12 kegs is quite a lot, to be fair.
But yeah, I suppose my general routine hasn't really changed much. But I suppose my routine generally is like work from like 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. Kind of like deep work, whatever you want to call it. Like lunch somewhere in there. Then I have my training period basically in the day, which is between like 4 and 6. And now that looks like I'll sprint 2 kilometers to the gym at like flat out pace, which by the way is way harder than running at the same pace for longer on the way back because I'm not warmed up. Then I train for an hour. I do weights, and I was doing a lot of like CrossFit style like circuits in the gym. I've sacked that off since I started doing running. So I basically do like push pull. I don't really do legs because my fucking chiropractor told me that my spine's fucked, and I run a lot. So yeah, I'll do like push on a Monday, but I've started whacking in calisthenics at the start of a session, so I'll do like pull-ups and shit. That's only recently. A standard like push weight session. Always push it really hard, and then I'll run like 5k back from the gym with my gym kit on, with my bag and shit. And that recently has just been like the ultimate fucking pair. I've like found the pair that works for me. Like weight training, like as heavy as I can, a bit of calisthenics, and running like 7k a day.
Routine is so good.
It's just a routine.
Yeah.
And then at the weekend, I mix it up a bit. Like today I went on the track and did a load of shit. Normally I do like a 10k run and maybe gym as well.
Yeah.
Or just a 10k run. And I basically haven't had a day off recently in terms of like weekends. But
Good habits.
yeah, it's a good routine. But I mean, I've definitely been drinking a fair amount, like wine and shit, which to be honest, I think that's like a little vice of mine. And I don't think there's massive. I think wine's all right. Like it's not like I'm necking pints and shit.
It's getting a balance, really. Like I want to not drink.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like it's like an optimum balance and everything, really. Like I'm in probably the best shape of my life, like aesthetically and cardio to an extent. Probably on par with what I was when I was like rowing.
Yeah.
Like I ran a 17:30 5k the other day with a bag on after the gym. That's actually filth. Like,
filth.
I was shocked how quick that was.
Reads David Goggins' book once.
I read David Goggins' book. Honestly, that made a difference. And then I ran a 38:40 10k, but that was like a month ago.
Hear his voice in your head and shit.
37 something soon. And yeah, I'm trying to be aesthetic and functional. And it definitely training like a fucking savage. Like I feel like you have to earn that every day. And when you do it, it always makes the day better. You look better, you feel better, you feel like a bad motherfucker. And yeah, it affects every area of life. Like your confidence, your looking back, I'm actually ashamed at like the shape I got in last year. I mean, I wasn't in bad. I was still going to the gym, but I think it was the lack of cardio, which I had so much of when I was like a teenager.
This was neon year though, right?
Yeah, I was just stressed and fat. I mean, I wasn't actually fat though. Like I still looked all right, but like compared to what I am now, I look like shit. Even my face, like the face is the biggest difference.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Like how the fuck was I even getting girls?
Yeah, I mean, 12 kg is fucking. That's a lot. That's a lot of weight.
So now it's like a maintenance thing. I think diet's been on point though.
Diet is 70%.
Like we don't even have shit food in this house, so it's impossible to eat crap.
Which is a life hack, by the way. Like refrain from putting anything shit in your cupboard that you know you're gonna binge on. Because ultimately, if you have healthy cupboards, you're gonna eat healthily. It's like literally, it's so simple.
Literally all I eat now, pretty much, apart from like going out for food, and even then it's like steak or whatever.
Yeah.
Is what like Huel, fruit, frozen fruit, rice, chicken, steak, and then like yogurt, like natural yogurt. That's literally it. Like, but I enjoy it. It doesn't taste bad. Like, when you get into a routine, that's like enjoyable.
I also think it's healthy having some sort of vice that isn't too.
Wine is my thing. I suppose.
It's not too detrimental, but it's like you feel like it's a treat, and then that kind of levels you down from your very strict lifestyle from a health perspective, and then you have that
like I don't track calories or portions or anything. I just fucking eat what I want.
I am, to be fair, at the moment. Fucking, I beat the parts.
I mean, for me, when I can just tell, like when I'm training like a mad motherfucker, at least in my head. Yeah. And I eat what feels right.
Yeah.
So, and then I guess after the gym, I generally work for like another 3 or 4 hours or whatever. Go to the sauna, and that's like a day.
Sauna's a life hack as well.
Sauna's huge.
Yeah, if you don't come out of the sauna with at least one new idea, then you've done it wrong.
Yeah, it's actually so true.
All right, another advice question. I guess it just allows us to go down tangents, but advice for a 16-year-old entrepreneur running a digital marketing agency.
Fucking hell, for a start.
Yeah.
Who the fuck are your clients?
Yeah.
If you're 16, no offense, but is that harsh?
I mean,
I don't even know how to advise on that. I mean, my advice would be, why are you running an agency if you're 16? Because you don't know anything about running ads. I mean, well, maybe you do. I would find it hard to be credible at 16 if you're offering paid services to clients, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think...
But I've probably just ruined that kid's dreams right now, so let's pull it back.
Yeah. No, I think it's very easy to see, like... It's hard to seem authentic because I'm sure you got a sales pitch that you probably got from Iman or something.
Yeah.
And like people can, because at the end of the day you're talking to founders, and like what we were saying earlier about the whole corporate facade thing. Like if you've got this whole professional sales pitch on, if it was me, I'd see straight through it, and I'd literally like tell them to stop. Like it's not just not worth my time listening to some
Yeah,
fluff.
he hasn't given any context on if it's going well or not, which is why it's hard to answer. But my gut instinct would be, how is anyone signing up as a client if you're 16? Because
respect is like major respect for getting involved.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I reckon at that age, at 16, it's more a case of learning the ropes, and like you're in a very sick position to do that because you're so young. Like it's like we always say, if we were 16 or 17, knowing what we know now, then Jesus, like where would we be 5 years on, aka where we are, like sitting here today?
Well, more than 5 years for me, fucking 10 years.
Yeah.
More than 5 years for you as well.
Yeah, I'm just fucking quick maths, mate. All right, well, off from that, I guess, what's next for Space Kids, I guess? Let's go back on...
Is there more good questions on there?
Not really, to be honest.
I swear there was some about girls in there. We've got to get some weird ones in.
Let me have a look.
I swear.
But answer that, then I'll find some shit. So what's next in terms of how you're approaching the next level of scale based on stock being a problem, etc.?
Now it's like the first car's down the table. There's clear demand for it. It clearly works. There's evident good performance on a lot of ad creatives. So the first step was building out like creative systems, because when you've got one product, the only variable really is the ads and creative. So I've kind of nailed that to an extent. So now it's just doing that and giving it time. Stock is another massive one, so I'm figuring out how much stock I can get so we can scale potentially to like three to 500 grand a month in like the next few months, which I think we can do. So yeah, ultimately like, it's pretty fucking simple. It's just a case of putting the shit in place that allows me to then put the foot to the floor on like ad spend and scale. So again, I've done it before, and it's just a case of executing it and ticking off any teething issues, which there have been, like a few like issues with like the 3PL, you know, noting down any early customer complaints or like consistent themes that need to be fixed and shit. But it's intentionally a very simple brand. There's one SKU right now, and there probably will be for at least like the next 6 months. Even though I have other shit I could launch, I've decided to just focus on the one product, scale it, and like hypothetically, why couldn't I scale to 100 million revenue with one product? In my mind, that's possible.
The only lever right now that's preventing larger scale is stock, and when you're a stock-based business, shit, it actually is very hard.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, because like you feel like there's so much in the tank to scale, but ultimately you have to strategically spend so that you don't run out quicker. You
can't just think about the front end of the business, like spend more revenue.
Which is so easy to do. Yeah, it's like you just chase the numbers, and like you have in the past, and I think you've learned from that. But like, it's fucking it's tough.
Yeah, don't scale just because you can. Scale when you've scaled everything, like the customer service, the stock, the cash flow, and
when you know it won't affect the other areas of the business that are just as important, aka customer experience and. I mean, product quality is just a given, but customer experience ultimately, which if you're in the dropshipping scene is probably something you're not like too focused on right now.
Yeah.
But then, the switch, it's the difference. Having a drop, you can earn some quick, good cash from dropshipping, but then the long-term cash, which is ultimately made in the exit, is only achievable from a brand.
Yeah,
so
100%.
All right, crooked then.
Let's do like 3 or 4 or 5 tops more. We've done like an hour.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll go on to this one. What are the top 3 traits you look for in a partner?
I don't know why I wanted to answer this. I feel like
you wanted this to come up. Slash future GF. Also, what's your take on dating apps? So 2 and 1.
It's quite an interesting question, to be fair. Yeah. Christ. I mean, yeah, like I think like with anything, you build experience in relationships and with like dating and stuff. Like you literally get better at it and understanding like what you're in it for. You know, what's normal, what's not, etc., etc. And I learned a lot in my previous relationship, and I learned what wasn't going to work for me long term. So the first bit, like for a girlfriend, I mean, an obvious one, which I didn't really realize in the past, was like just for me, like even things like, you know, just having shared interests. Like I couldn't be with someone that was not interested in their health or, you know, eating clean or working out. And that might sound flippant, but like when I was with someone that wasn't that, they reflected on me massively. And I lost like that habit, which was such a good habit. I didn't lose it entirely, but now it's like I'm in a much better, healthy place. It's like I want someone that was going to support that. So that's like the first thing.
Let me just add to that. Like, what would you say their role is in when you're building a brand and it's fucking like trenches spec? How do you feel like a girlfriend would impact that, like negatively, positively?
That's a different question, I think.
Yeah, I'm just kind of adding to it because it's very relevant. It's
I think it can. I definitely think you can have a girlfriend to be an entrepreneur. I don't subscribe that you can't be in the trenches with a girlfriend because in many ways but I think they would have to understand what your priorities are.
Yeah,
if that is a priority.
Normally understand.
So I guess maybe that's probably the second point actually. For a girlfriend, they would have to respect and understand my ambitions, and however that looks. That doesn't mean you fucking can't spend any time together. But for me, maybe that means, I don't know, we only hang out on weekends. Like, that my priority during the week is trying to scale the fuck out of this thing because it's what makes me happy, blah, blah, blah. And it's also going to potentially give us, if we're in a relationship, a better future life, whatever that is. So that's probably the second thing, like just understanding. You just spilled wine on me.
Sorry,
just understanding what your ambitions are, and in the same way I would expect them to understand, I don't know, what they want to do and shit. So that's probably the second thing. I don't know, I think the third thing is just being fucking attracted to them, like actually, like on a deep, like spiritual level, because which, like, I don't know, I think there's a big difference between just like thinking someone's fit and like fully fancying them, like on like a personality level, physical level, like just like mental level. So and being like like not emotionally, like fucking mentally stimulated by them,
like shared emotional
just being on the same page and like fucking getting each other and like fancying each other, because that is massively important.
I think trying to get across the priorities thing is probably the hardest bit, because it's like we're so wired towards the business orientated goal that it's quite hard to.
I mean, I would like to have. I wouldn't mind. I think it's a lot of pros having a really nice girlfriend that it almost feels like it's not possible because it's so rare. Like fucking really fit girl that gets the vision. Is really good for me in terms of like healthy and shit, and we're on the same page. That'd be really nice. I'm not opposed to that at all. But I think it's hard to find because it just is. Which
leads on to the dating app question. It's like, well, I don't even know what the thing was.
What's your thought on dating apps?
What's your take? Yeah.
I'll keep it pretty brief, but like, I've used dating apps loads over the years, like fucking everyone has.
What's your favourite? Pom?
No. I probably used to use Tinder when I was in uni, then I used Hinge a bit. I genuinely don't use them as much as I used to because I'm just, I don't know, like
growing out of it.
More quality over quantity in my mind.
Yeah.
And maybe I've just grown out of it, and not grown out of it, but like it's less exciting to fucking go on a date with a girl now, unless I'm really into them.
You want an organic coffee shop meet?
I would love that. I would love an organic. Yeah, like I don't know. I've dated plenty of girls over the years. Some of them have been good. Some of them haven't been good. Some of them being one of them was a long-term thing. Most of them weren't. Some of them went on a date and never fucking spoke to them again. Like, it
is difficult though, because we've spoken about this before. It's like, although the ideal organic meet would be the best scenario, we're in a modern age where everyone is on.
I think it's past the point of dating apps being cringe and weird. Like it's not. It's
you almost
literally
have
the reality, especially post-COVID.
We're not have
that pushed that progression along.
Yeah.
Instagram's a dating app as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a bigger dating app than Hinge or Tinder. Like to an extent, it might start on Hinge or Tinder, but like anything that comes from those usually. Develops on like Instagram and shit. And
Tinder's a uni app, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely for the, I don't know, it's very uni oriented crowd. But
yeah, I mean, in summary, I think dating apps are fine. I don't see why there's any difference ultimately meeting a girl on a dating app as opposed to meeting them in a coffee shop, because at the end of the day, if you meet them on a dating app, you're still going to meet them in person at some point.
Yeah.
And that's when, like, you either get along and you like each other or you don't. Like, the dating app's just the initial contact point, which in many ways you could argue is better than like a nightclub or a bar, because you're probably sober and there's expressed mutual interest. So I don't see the problem with it, although at the same time I would 100% much rather meet my future wife in a library or a coffee shop, or like a slightly more organic setup.
Yeah.
I was going to say something else, I'm not going to say it on camera. He knows what I'm going to say.
Yeah, fucking hell. We're nearly a bottle deep as well. Who knows what... Alright, so have you thought about entering retail stores? I know you might touched on it.
Can we get more philosophical questions, or what? We've just been speaking about girls.
But you want to talk about girls?
No, but we want to talk. Is there no more like philosophical ones that aren't business?
Why don't you have a little look? And just.
Well, I mean, retail stores.
Create the topic.
Quick answer. Yeah, I would definitely like to do retail stores for space goods. But probably shit like Selfridges or Whole Foods or whatever.
Yeah.
More than like fucking Tesco or Waitrose or anything like that.
I've heard the payment terms on retail shit is so
like
weird.
90 days or whatever. Yeah.
Like 180 days.
Yeah, and then you're literally fucked unless you have investors. And even if you have investors, you're probably quite fucked.
Yeah. And right. I heard they like squeeze down your margins because they say like we can take you off the shelves anytime. So like, we need it cheaper or you're off kind of thing. They have a lot of leverage over you.
Well, I've got a question. Not a question, but we need a full poddy about Consalvio's story. So are you going to share your story and current brand at some point? And if not, why? Interesting.
Short answer, yeah, eventually. A bit on why I haven't already is a good question. I've never been public about anything. Like my Insta is just my life as it's been, because I went to uni, built the brand like in final year uni, so it was a kind of behind the scenes thing, but just obviously documented as most people do on Instagram, just normal shit. Trying to implement more ecom related stuff now. I think like I've got to the point where ecom is such a big part of my life. It's like, why would I not document it? Because like that's ultimately who I am, and like it's where I'm destined to be. Because going back to that film thing, I've always been interested in making shit. Like I'm at a point where I'm literally making like what I've always kind of wanted to make. But I suppose like in terms of being in a position where I can like commit to a process that I love. Anyway, not getting too cringe on that, but yeah, I'll do it eventually. I think I suppose a little teaser, always been in the growth hacking scene. The gym account definitely did a lot for me, and that it wasn't like a meme page gym account, by the way. It was like a personal brand more type thing with my best mate. I learned a lot from that. You realise that there's an underworld to absolutely fucking everything, and there were these like Telegram groups and shit that I got exposed to when I was 16, 17, and just seeing that at such a young age and realising that there's this underworld to social media, I guess, from a growth hacking perspective. I never looked at the world the same. Like, it's pretty deep. But like, I knew going onto LinkedIn, like I'd had like a LinkedIn bot that would, when it wasn't a thing, because it's everywhere. But like literally when it first started, I was already on that, made a LinkedIn bot agency, was learning some peer uni from that. Like, I've just always been growth hacking. I was just like, I've kind of...
Growth hacker.
Yeah, like, I kind of put that, I took that title recently because I was looking back at the shit I was done. It's like, fucking hell, yeah. I have always been in the social scene, just trying to grow shit, like maybe not completely authentically, but that's the one up. And by authentically, I mean like bots and shit to send messages and just all that crooked shit that 99% of people don't know about, which I personally find very interesting. But yeah, I mean that's enough for now. Anyway, we'll get into it in another pod, I'm sure, at some point.
Right, there's one question I noticed here. When we invite Andrew Tate on the podcast, he's successful in every possible area. Well, Andrew Tate did reply to my tweet when he was in London. He just left on his private jet, apparently. So I'm sure he'll come on at some point and it will fucking break the internet. So if he's watching this, if anyone's watching this, just like fucking tweet him, like remind him, because I'm sure he's in London probably quite a lot. So that's one. One question actually was maybe quite interesting. I'll ask you. How do you find London to live? Inspiring or hard to focus?
Oh, mate.
Which I think I find it hard to even see how they see the other side of that.
It depends where you start, because I grew up like near Watford, so like kind of in a country-ish area, and going to London was just a completely different environment. And obviously you and Fred were here. Like, I know Fred from school, but yeah, I knew like the next step was to be in my own spot with my mate Connor, who was also an ecom, and we had a place together. It was like it was a big, kind of risk, I guess, at the time. It's like paying London prices for a new pad, like at the time. It's just it's a big decision to make, but also the best decision I've ever made in my life. Like now being in the position, and when we hear a lot of people say, "Oh, like your network's incredible," it's because you put yourself in a position where like you have access to a network. Like if you're still living at your mum's place, in my opinion, it's very hard to get the same level of exposure to these fucking cool dons who've done shit because they're not in their mum's place. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think I honestly think if you even think that moving to a big city is a net negative, then you're like big NGMI energy. Like I don't see how that could be a negative.
Yeah, London's lit, right?
I mean, I guess, yeah, some people prefer to be in a village and like by themselves and shit, but it's just not for me.
It's solid.
I'm trying to see if there's any more.
Maybe one more question. How long we done?
I did just notice scrolling along here, you took a picture of a Pure Gym or whatever it is promo, and they've spelt "your" wrong on a piece of promotional marketing, which is just that's ultimate irony in it. Sorry, it's the gym rather than Pure Gym. It says everything about that as a brand, doesn't it? Yeah. Because you're amazing, they put YOUR.
I was going to say
instead of UR.
That's jokes.
I've seen that before in a gym like that. They actually spell their own marketing shit wrong. Just fucking hilarious. Is there any solid ones? I mean, maybe not. Maybe you can pick one, but if not, we're like 1 hour 15 in anyway.
Yeah.
We can do another fucking one next time.
Yeah.
Because some of these questions are pretty shit. But
yeah, to be honest, we're almost better off going down our own tangent of like everything. maybe in another one because we're towards the end now. But I guess, yeah, big things coming for Space Goods. It provides a much better platform to talk about shit because now you're actually doing a lot of the process, which before was just a waiting game because you were waiting for stock to be ready, brand to be done, people to hire that would make shit work. Like now you're actually doing all that. It's scale time, and it's very relatable to maybe people who are in a similar spot and want to take their brand to like X amount, which you're heading towards, whatever. So yeah,
and I'm just putting a lot of pressure on myself by speaking about it publicly, which is very intentional. And I know I can execute again. I've done it before. So yeah, and then the same with the pod. Like I've decided to take the pod more seriously because fuck, like why am I doing it if we're not going to at least try and make it like one of the biggest in this space, if not the biggest? Yeah, and
100%. I think it can be as well.
Red
for
wine,
sure.
Pink lights, real talk. Hopefully people like it. I now need to start. Yeah, actually leave a comment if you have any guest suggestions because get all the fucking fellas listening to the pod, helping to grow the pod.
Yeah.
Because that is the hardest thing right now. I mean, I need to hire someone to do it. But yeah, I've like rinsed my immediate network to an extent that there's a few more big episodes coming that people have probably been waiting for. But yeah, if you have a guest suggestion or whatever, just fucking leave a comment or DM me and we'll try and make it happen. Have you got any closing comments before we wrap up? We could do another Q&A next month, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I quite enjoy these, to be fair. I think the first one is like the idea of just speaking normally about shit was like, I don't know, on camera it's just a bit weird, but ultimately we're regurgitating our conversations we have on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
And I think actually living with this, going back to like your surrounding environment, being with someone who's in the ecom space or whatever you do, and being able to bounce ideas off each other is actually so much more beneficial than you can imagine. Like I think we both done a lot in this house since we've been here.
Triple S program.
Yeah, Triple S program.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, might start posting some more shit on the Insta, so I'll plug shamelessly.
Yeah. All the boys building personal brands, eh?
Yeah, at Consalvio.
Where the fuck's my blue tick, eh?
Mate, we'll get it.
I got scammed again the other day from some cunt trying to get me a username. Not going to comment further on that.
Been scammed twice now, bud.
Yeah, I've been scammed twice. Waiting for that bloody blue tick. Send the check. If anyone's got a blue tick plug, fucking DM me. Don't scam me. But yeah, as usual, I think we'll wrap it up there. Yeah, decent little ep. subscribe to the pod, share it with a friend, all that usual shit. We are growing, but I need to slap this thing to like 10k subs plus ASAP. So I've been sat at like 3 to 4k subs now for a while, and it's pissing me off. But all good things take time, as we know. It's like bamboo often. A lot of growth into the service, and then it'll explode. Drop a comment with some suggestions, what you think, and cheers for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.